It is just after 7, so we're going to start our meeting. Good to see everyone that is here. We'll do our best to kind of walk you through it. We always start with the Pledge of Allegiance with a 15-second moment of silence, or about that. So I invite you to stand and join me. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to start with our claims. We need approval for APVs number 9. Roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Can I do APVs now?
Yeah, you can.
Thanks. Okay. We're going to look for approval of APVs number 27664 or 27727.
I will make a motion to approve APVs 27664 through 27727 as presented in our backup materials.
Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Okay. Chad made the motion. Bill seconded the motion. Any questions or curiosities or comments related to those APVs?
No.
All right. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. That gets passed.
We have 4 seats front row if anybody wants them too. So.
Come on in.
I mean,
Okay.
good.
Bid.
You're welcome to.
Oh, they're not here.
Somebody should.
Or you can stand around the fringe.
Somebody should-
That's fine too. Or if you were so bold, you could take these 4 seats and move them to where you are. We will be looking for approval for our SRF APVs, and these are APVs related to our wastewater treatment plant. So we're looking for APVs number 27687 to 27728.
I will make a motion to approve APVs 27687 through 27728 as presented in our backup materials.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Chad. Bill seconds it. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. And now we're looking for approval for our minutes from April 2nd.
I'll make a motion that we adopt our minutes from the town council meeting from April 2nd.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ryan. And Terry seconded. Any questions, comments, changes, anything? Fantastic. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Appreciate that. I'm going to make a couple slight adjustments to our agenda so that we can, I know that all of you are here to talk about our Envoy contract tonight, so I appreciate you being here. We realize there's other topics that you are probably mostly here for. However, we do have some other things that we need to make sure we do that have nothing to do with animals or reptiles or the care of those within our town. So we're going to switch some things up a little bit so that we can let those people go and escape this next conversation. So we're going to have our Envoy contract conversation before we talk about our reptiles. And in doing so, if anybody is here specifically to make public comments related to our Envoy contract, there will be a time for the other items on our agenda. This would be a good time for you to ask questions or share comment related to our Envoy contract, which is for our owner's technical rep.
It's fine with me if you want to go ahead and bump up the bid opening also.
You want to go somewhere else too? No, I'm not asking. Yeah. We'll start with the Envoy contract and go from there.
Sure.
All right, so you all have received in your backup material, and we had it last meeting, dealing with our Envoy contract. I know we had some conversation and some discussions about concerns or questions or clarifications. And so Dale is here to kind of help us walk through that a little bit more to see if there's any further conversation or direction. I appreciate, Dale, you being here. Appreciate your meeting and time yesterday and your follow-up email. The council has that follow-up email as a result that you sent yesterday after our conversation. And so I'll kind of open it up to council if you have any specific questions related to the contract, or did you have anything that you needed to say?
Unless you want me to walk through those bullet points I sent you, I'm happy to do that so it's on the record. But if you guys are good with what you've got in front of you, I mean,
Eventually, I'd like you to do that. You want him to start with that?
okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me. For the record, I'm Dale Davis. I'm the Director of Planning for Envoy. Happy to be here. Happy to, and I look forward to representing you as your owner's rep to move forward with some of these development projects. So I know you all received our contract, heard some feedback on it, and I want to commit to what we can do. And if it's agreeable to everyone, then we can move forward with it. So I know there was some conversation around the construction part of the fee. So when we move from the design phase, which is where the retainer structure happens, when we go to construction, that's the traditional OTR fee. We had proposed that as a percent because we didn't really have a good handle on the project value. After meeting with Ethan and Ryan and Jim, we have a much better understanding of that, and we're willing to commit to a 2% fee on up to $15 million. So we'll put that in writing, which is down from the 2.5 we had. We just have a much better understanding. The retainer fee, we're happy to adjust that to be the minimum $6,000 a month with them to fence ourselves in if the stars align and we're able to action on everything at once, and I've got to throw multiple staff members at it to do it. We're completely open to that. I just don't want to fence us in and say, but I need to leave you guys that cost certainty. I'm here to watch your resources, so that's important.
So Dale, I have a question on
Sure.
that point.
Sure.
So what will determine in a particular month if it's the minimum of 6 or if it's the maximum of 8, or if there's a specific request to exceed the 8?
So internally, I'm targeting 6 to 7, so I don't go over that 8. I know in my mind how many hours based on the staff that's assigned, roughly what that's going to get us, right? So if I know, we've decided we're going to do all the RFPs at once, that's definitely going to be more than the 8. That's a lot of staff time. We'll bring that to you all, either through Ethan or through myself, or however you all want to approach that, so you can approve it to move forward. But that way we don't have to renegotiate the contract every time, but you can still be informed of upcoming expenses because you have a budget to keep, and I understand.
So for budgeting purposes, we plan on the 6 unless we're notified that there's a deviation. Is that correct?
I would plan on the 6 to 8. So if you're looking for a number to appropriate, I would stay closer to that 8 because that is the, that's the ceiling, right? Without your approval.
So regardless, the retainer is 6,000, and in conversations with you, the understanding is that is a reasonable monthly fee related to the work we're going to ask you to do.
Correct.
In terms of relating. So
Correct.
the truth is, staying under 6 and asking for approval after 6 would be problematic to the process, because the expectation really is for us to get the work out of you that we know we need to get to move forward. It's going to be at least
Correct.
6, but probably more.
Correct. Trying to make this process as efficient as possible, understanding what you all are looking for. As you remember in our proposal, we were at 8.
Yeah.
We've had subsequent conversations where we understand this a little bit more. And each conversation, we understand it a little bit more, right? So I think we've got a good enough understanding of where we sit today, but the next step is unraveling what the project will entail.
So the difference between what you're suggesting and what's actually in the contract is the backstop of 8,000. Previously, there was no backstop.
Correct.
Now we have this backstop that should the work need to exceed that 8,000, it requires council approval.
Correct. There was a mileage provision in there. I understand that was another this could become a blank check thing. We don't want it to be for you. We'll commit that, every meeting you're only getting 1 mileage charge, and that's office to office. So if we're doing field work, if we're running to lunch in between, if we bring 2 or 3 cars because we're coming from multiple places, that's on us. We're just committing office to office. And if we can't arrange schedules to carpool, well, that's just cost doing business for us.
Okay.
The legal, I know that was another item. We can reduce that to 5,000, no problem. The 20 had basically $15,000 of room in there to do procurement documents for you. Subsequent conversations, your attorney is more than capable of getting us.
Are you more than capable?
Capable?
Okay.
We're going to go with that.
But our personal legal is 5,000, so we can take that all the way down to that. And you asked also about what happens to a fee adjustment. Like there's a line in there that says fee adjustment. That's because outside forces, be it state or federal, or if we get into a project that now requires Davis-Bacon, for example, that could affect our rates. So we need to have provision in there to do it. But the intent is not to adjust them until the end of this contract term.
Right.
I've not adjusted rates on anyone to date, aside from, your contract's up, now we've got to do another one. Accounting is not going to let me use 3-year-old rates if we're doing a new contract. So those are the comments I heard. I just wanted to make sure I responded to you all, and if you're comfortable with it, I'm happy to amend what you've got in front of you and get it signed and get it back to you.
To clarify a couple things that we've had some conversation around here and there, the 6,000 retainer is only up until that 2.5% or 2% gets activated, right? So we're not paying the 2%
No.
plus the 6,000 a month. And then also just a clarification for the record and anybody who's curious, your contract does have explicit language that both sides can terminate. So should you need to raise rates, we could terminate the contract because that's no longer
And I'm
suitable.
never just going to float something in front of you like,
Right.
we're going to talk about it before anything happens, because I'm here to be a representative. I'm here to be here for the town.
Okay. So the ask is, what other questions do we have around this contract, and does council feel comfortable once these amendments are made to the contract you all have seen? Do you feel comfortable approving it with the amendments as discussed so that we can sign it and move forward? Thoughts?
I was in on the conversation, so obviously I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah. I'm good.
You're good, Terry, with those amendments?
My only question, because I wasn't involved in the conversations, is section 13D as in David says that if there were any disputes, that litigation regarding this matter would be conducted in Marion County. And it's not that I'm trying to home court you, but I think Hancock County would be a county where would certainly get a dispute resolved 1,000 times faster than Marion County. I mean, with their congested calendar, you could ask for an emergency hearing and it could be 7 months out. That's if it's an emergency. So would you have any objection to changing that to Hancock County?
I'm traveling either way because my office is in Hamilton County, so that's fine.
That's my
Okay.
only thought there.
So change Marion County, should it come to that, which we're hoping it doesn't, to Hancock County. Chad, do you have anything else?
No, I appreciate you working with us and making sure that we get the best deal for everybody that's in our town. At what point would we trigger a conversation on the maximum of 8,000? What I don't want is to get to the nth hour and say, hey, we need approval or we can't get this done. Like, Yvonne's going to definitely ask for this, but just for me, at what point are we going to say, hey, at
As soon-
7,500?
As soon as we see it coming,
Okay.
honestly. If like my example of if we do multiple RFPs at the same time, I mean, clearly that would be the result of a meeting, right? And
Yeah.
You're giving me direction, I'm giving advice. If the direction is, and based on the advice, right, to do something that we know is going to cost more, we're going to tell you as soon as we know.
Okay.
And the way that the overage bills is it's 1 month in arrears because, billing cuts off at the end of the month, but labor doesn't necessarily post till like 2 weeks later. So there's, a February bill you'd see January if they
Okay. So, Ted, it's okay to approve this contract as amended and then sign it when it gets sent to us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that's what I'd be looking for as a motion to approve the contract as amended at this meeting, so we can move forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the Envoy contract for owner's rep with amendments
Okay.
as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Terry. Any other questions or curiosities? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Dale.
Thank you for pressing
Thank you,
us.
Dale.
Yeah, we look forward to
Yeah.
working with
I do
y'all.
too. Now let's get started.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It does not look like that cleared the room. Okay. So you all must be here for other things. You want to do your,
If we can.
sure, let's
it
do
should be
that.
pretty short.
We're going to move to the bid opening of community crossings grant, which for those of you in town is a really great benefit to our community because it means that we can do more work on our roads and sidewalks because we got a grant from the state. Is that right? Federal? NDOT, yep, the state,
Correct.
to be able to do more work and keep our town safer. So,
Well, and it is a 75-25 split. Also, NDOT paying the 75 and the town has to come up with a 25% match. So it's a great program. Throw a lot of money into rehabilitation and road projects. Stretches taxpayer dollar a long way. So I'm ready whenever you are, Ted.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we only have one bid, so it'll be rather quick.
wonderful.
All right, the bid submitted is from Pavement Solutions, Inc. And the total bid amount of $276,924.80.
Can you read that one more time?
$276,924.80.
Okay, that's great. So what happens next is I'll go untake that and go over the bid tabs, make sure everything looks good, and then notify the contractor. NDOT's wanting all these things, under contract by the end of April. So let's do it pretty quick.
Ted, since we only got one, is it okay for us to approve this based on Steve's research?
Yeah, as long as Steve's
If
okay with it.
follows everything,
Yes, authorize Steve to go ahead and get the contract executed
that
if
help
it's
us move faster? Okay. Any objections?
No, I like it. Do you want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve Steve to engage in contract if it meets all requirements that he needs.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Bill. Any other conversations?
I just want to say Pavement Solution does a great job. If you travel down Jim Road, the county's portion that they did from 300 south going north to US 40, that's all microsurface. Pavement Solutions did that work. They do a lot of work in the county, have for numerous years, and are local. So it's a good project, really, really good project.
And as of note, that would be a grant.
CCMG.
So we would basically get NDOT to pay $208,000. The town would pay $69,231. So that's a pretty big one in my eyes.
That is.
Yeah, that's community projects is a great program, and I hope it continues.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you submitting that and winning that for us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Is Julie here? Do we have Julie?
Yes.
Come on down. we'll just wipe the slate clean real quick. Are you Julie too? Yeah. You want to talk? All right.
Julie Lucas, New Palestine, Main Street. Thanks for letting me come in tonight and just kind of, I know you're aware that we have our events, but we have a new one coming up May 3rd. It's Derby on Depot. So we're going to have games and the races on live and some souvenir things for the Derby. The thing I really need to ask for is closure of US 52 for Summerfest, which will be Friday, the 27th of June and 28th on Saturday. We have applied for the NDOT closure. It's been approved. I just need to get a hold harmless back into them. And we would shut down when Steve and crew suggest, but early morning on Friday the 27th, and we'll have it reopened by noon on Sunday the 29th. So just need to mainly get that in front of you and have a couple of council members sign as board members.
Okay.
And then I know that you guys always help us a ton with labor and doing things. We truly appreciate everything that the town employees do to help us, the police department. And usually you do a sponsorship or donation as well. So I've given that to the ladies and we can get that taken care of also.
Great. And go ahead.
Any changes to last year? So it's pretty much similar to last year. No
Yep.
changes to do.
We'll shut down 52 from Bittner to Jim Road. We'll have our car show, the Jeep show, 90 plus vendors, lots of great music acts.
Awesome.
Chief, any issues? Cool.
All
I'll
right.
make a motion to approve the shutdown of 52 from 27 morning of 27 June to 29 June noon.
I'll second.
Thank you, Terry. Any other conversation? I just appreciate all you do and expanding your activities. That's
Yeah.
great. I know that the town, I never hear anything negative. Everybody loves what you guys are doing throughout the year. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. All right. Do you need that sign now?
If you don't mind, because I would like to sign.
Okay. I don't get to sign under mayor. I know that.
We don't have one of those yet.
You want to sign? I assume we'll make a copy of that, Yvonne, before she leaves, or Jenny can. Thank you.
Okay.
Just so we have a copy for our
Thank you,
record.
Julie.
All right. There. Thank you all. Appreciate some of that stuff. We just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to get through, and those people who were just here for those items were able to head out. So we will have an opportunity to open up for public comments. A couple things about public comments specifically related to the animal ordinance that we have some proposed language on and some conversations around. Public comments, what you would need to do is come to the podium, share your name, address, or organization that you are with. And then you'll have 3 minutes to share whatever you would like to share. If we do have some, decorum, I don't imagine there's going to be any issues with decorum. Everyone's just here to share information and make sure we're doing the very best we can to lead and govern well. Before we get into public comments, I simply want to read a statement from our council. Over the course of the last several days, we have heard from several individuals and organizations related to proposed changes to our animal ordinance. About 90% of the communication we've received has been from outside our town. Of the communication we received from town residents, we've heard a pretty even split between those in favor of restrictions and those not. We want to thank US ARC. While believing they misrepresented the intent and reach of our proposed changes, their communication campaign allowed us to have several educational conversations. Never did we set out to ban your hamsters or your fish or your birds or infringe on the already regulated sport of falconry. We did attempt to create boundaries, but it has become clear that the broad stroke approach to these concerns would result in unintended consequences. Our current ordinance is ambiguous, and open to misinterpretation. So while we recognize there should be space for reptile and exotic animal ownership, we are tasked with creating guardrails that are geared toward the safety and well-being of our town, her residents, and our pets. Is there any other council comments prior to public comments?
Well, I'll repeat what has been said many, many times on this topic. You know, our current ordinance says none, zero. So whatever we end up with is going to be much better than what we currently have. So, and I want to make another comment because things take a life of their own. And on the internet, there were a lot of people, and again, as Ethan stated, a lot of people that were not from within the town. I kind of chuckled every time I opened up an email that told me about the city. I don't know what city they're talking about, but the one thing that I want to take great exception to and point out on the record, many of those comments included a statement that we understand that you're dealing with a bad actor and your ordinance is in response to a bad actor. And that statement also in those comments told me that whoever was drafting those comments had no idea about the history of where we were and how we got to where we are, because there are no bad actors. So to the extent, Mr. Lewis, at any point, you took any of those comments from folks that were trying to imply that you were a bad actor, I want to, on the record, state in no way, shape, or form are you a bad actor. You haven't been, and you won't be in the future either. So that's, you know, in a small town, when you read something like that, it hits too close to home that there's no problem here. So we don't have any bad actors. Now, we did have a bad ordinance, and we're certainly trying to take steps to fix that. May not make everybody happy, but what we're going to end up with will be a lot better than what we have currently.
All right, so we will open it up to public comments. Again, please step to the podium if you have something you'd like to say related to our animal ordinance and the proposed changes. Feel free to step up, give us your name, your address, and or organization that you are with. Podium. Feel free to step up to the podium. Yes.
My name is Holly Carter. I live in Zionsville, but I am the secretary of the Hoosier Herpetological Society. We do have members all over the state, including here in New Palestine, although I don't see any of them right here right now. I am also a retired veterinary technician and a current wildlife rehabilitator. I disagree with the ban on breeding and keeping reptiles and amphibians, arachnids, and some of exotic birds and mammals, all of them. There are already laws on the state concerning crocodilians and venomous reptiles, as well as birds and mammals. I oppose the limit of 4 individual or combination thereof of reptiles and arachnids, as these are not animals that require more than adequate caging and limited or no exercise, although safely locked and safe heat light options should be required. I do not want a ban on sales or transfers on these animals, and I would say the size limit be more than the 5-foot length. Public displays of these animals should also be allowed in accordance with proper venues, such as fairs, school events, or other planned events. Proper housing and care should be maintained by the owner, the same as for regards to regular pets like cats or dogs. I'm open to any questions.
Any questions from council? Thanks, Holly. Appreciate you being here.
Oh, my name is Roger Carter. Holly is my wife. And I just want to go on record. I naturally agree completely with what she had just told you.
Smart move.
Happy life.
I've been past president of the Hoosier Herp Society, and I was treasurer for many years. Right now I'm retired. And if I may, our president had some communication with your town mayor, and I would like to read our
Take it. I'll take it. Just the president of the council, not mayor. But
Okay.
I'll take it.
Well, so same difference.
Sure.
I would like to read an email that our president sent to our executive board after his phone call with the mayor. Our president, Jim Horton, has said, I spoke with the mayor of New Palestine this morning about his concerns regarding reptile regulations. He was very understanding and open to all suggestions. He asked a lot of questions about reptiles, certain species, and their lengths. They were looking into a permit system for more than 10 snakes, 2 feet and over. I told him many species like ball pythons and rat snakes easily reach 3 feet, and that should be a good starting point. Told him about state regulations concerning crocodilians. Right now, he'd like to propose that anyone keeping more than 10 snakes larger than 10 feet get a permit from the town. From what I remember, he wanted a permit system for crocodilians. I told him I think I could live with that personally. And that's from our club president.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
any questions for me?
Council?
I think so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. I'm Phil Goss, President of the United States Association of Reptile Keepers, otherwise known as USARC, and I am a Hoosier. I don't know that matters at all. Don't live here in town, but
Always matters.
yeah. And to address some things you said, we did put out an alert, which obviously puts it on the internet. In our alerts, we do ask that only people from that town or city or state send emails. Obviously, we can't control who does, but we do ask people of that in all our alerts. So honestly, it's a little upsetting that it was 90 to 10 on if that's an accurate percentage rate. So again, that wasn't our doing on purpose because we do all the rest locals do that. So I just wanted to put that out there. And also in our alert, our language is clear that it's the current ordinance that seems to be about an 80-year-old ordinance that bans anything not native to Indiana. And also, since there's not the term domesticated used in your ordinance that I saw, that would even ban like parakeets and hamsters and things that are commonly considered domesticated. Even those would be banned because they're not native to Indiana. So again, our alert said what the current ordinance was and what the changes were. So again, I can't be responsible. So I misread that and sent you some letters to the contrary. And we do obviously appreciate you amending the current ordinance because statistically, even in New Pal, you're looking at 800 to 900 people are probably violating that current ordinance because about 1/3 of Americans are owning parakeets, other small birds, parrots, hamsters, ferrets, tropical fish. Again, currently under the current ordinance, all those animals will be banned because they're not native to Indiana. So we appreciate that you're looking at that 80-year-old ordinance and realize that there's probably a whole lot of people in town who are. I gave you the reptile statistics last time. That's a smaller chunk of that. You're looking about 5% of American households have pet reptiles, so in New Pal that'd be about 175. We did send another substantive comment. I think it's about 8 pages. It cites some Indiana laws that can be applied if you have escaped or released animals. And the apartment issue, again, I've never seen that before, and I've been doing this full time for about 13 years. Often you see landlords, they'll actually ban dogs and cats because they can do damage. You usually don't see them banning reptiles and small mammals or birds because they're kept in cages and they're not doing damage. So that's honestly something we haven't seen. And again, it seems like that should be up to the landlord to decide what the renters have to sign. And then obviously the renters agreeing when they sign the rental agreement on what pets they can have. And obviously we felt like we were being picked on a little bit with the ordinance because you're seeing a pet limit of 4 reptiles. But under that proposed ordinance, someone could have 100 parrots or 100 ferrets or 100 hamsters, but they couldn't have 5 turtles. So obviously we felt like the reptiles were being picked on a little bit, but not that they were asking for the other ones to be limited to 40. And I know we send you these letters and we cite laws and do all that kind of stuff, but I show up because obviously that's words on paper. We have to send that stuff.
Chad's
A lot of
timer.
it's going to be informative, but we're not
we're not here to be confrontational. All we want to do is help you. We understand that you probably don't have any experts on reptiles or hamsters or birds. We can bring those people in and talk to you about any of those animals, answer any questions you have. And I've personally written laws in over half of the U.S. states, either at the state or city level. So we can help you with draft language. And again, you're going to decide what's best for your town, but we're just here to help.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to be clear, your alert says if you're a non-resident, and it explains that, please compose a letter and include your title and credentials. So
We're like another organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, just so that everything's on the up and up, that's when you said, resident only, it clearly states if you're a non-resident.
I had that in my head and it didn't come out of my mouth.
No worries.
So yeah, I know like the Aviculture Federation of America, AFA, I believe sent you a letter. Again, they're a bird group, experts on birds. So association like that can be an expert stakeholder.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks.
Yep.
So I'm Amadeus. I live within Sugar Creek, but not within New Town limits. I'm here on behalf of the over 250 signatures I received on a petition that I created as a way for my community to collectively voice our concerns regarding ordinances 50.5, 50.6, and 50.10. Among those signatures were over 40 verified New Palestine residents, including some very notable last names in our community, such as Newmeister, Corbaugh, the Inskeep family, and many others. 10 separate people in our town even donated their own money to promote this petition. So as it stands, the existing town ordinance broadly bans all exotic animals, so revision is necessary. But the revisions on the table tonight remain overly restrictive. The petition our townspeople make is very clear. The community does not support any ban on exotic pets such as reptiles, arachnids, and birds of prey, especially in cases where tenants and landlords have mutually agreed. We ask that New Palestine simply adopt a standard that aligns with Indiana state law, which already outlines which exotic animals are permitted or restricted. There is no reason for New Palestine to add extra layers that limit property rights and responsible ownership. So this is now the second reading. I recognize that the ordinance passed the first vote, but tonight is your opportunity to reconsider, not just on technical grounds, but in light of what your constituents are asking for. Everyone who signed this petition did so knowing exactly what they were opposing, and I personally asked those distributing it to be transparent about our position. In my conversation with professors, residents, neighbors, and friends over the past few weeks, I have yet to meet a single person who supports this ordinance as written. If the intent of this revision was to update outdated language, then let's do that. But let's not go farther than what the state already allows and restricts. So tonight, I respectfully urge you, on behalf of my community and the members of that petition, to vote no on this revision, to vote no on this revision of the ordinance, and start over with a simple amendment allowing exotic animals to state law, or at the very least, table the vote to allow for more public discussion, input, or even amending that. A better solution is possible, one that respects both public safety and individual rights, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Amadeus. Any questions or comments, council? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Amadeus Wax. If you need me to spell it.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Amber Warman. I didn't bring anything on paper, but I'm sure you guys saw my Facebook post. I actually have one of Phil's baby blue tongue skinks. I've been in New Pal pretty much my whole life, elementary school, middle school, high school. I went to Purdue University, and I'm sure you can guess what my major was, biology. I've worked in many research labs with exotic animals, and I own them myself. I think it's pretty clear that a lot of people hope that you guys will reconsider the ordinance and maybe change the language again to what is currently allowed by state law, or get some feedback from folks in the community what might be more in line with what they're thinking. I know you guys are specifically wanting to target large constrictor type snakes, and I think that it would be wise to just include that language because that would spare non-venomous snakes like horn snakes or milk snakes that can easily exceed 5 feet. There really are no danger to humans at all. So I think maybe clarifying the language would help quite a bit. And I wanted to thank you, Ethan. I know Facebook can be a cesspool, and I know you made some comments in my post, and I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Appreciate it.
4444, really easy. I know. West Fittner Lane.
Further comments?
My name is Tim Dunnigan, and I'm a resident of Hancock County, so I'm not actually in town limits here. But I am a masterclass falconer, licensed through the state of Indiana. And just to reiterate what everyone's saying, it's birds of prey are something that I'm deeply passionate about, and that's something that is already arguably the most regulated sport in the United States. It's regulated internationally through the Migratory Bird Treaty, federally through the Department of Interior's, also U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and then there are, at the state level, there's DNR licensing as well, with regards to number of raptors in position and everything that's associated with that. So just wanted to bring attention to some of the regulations proposed by the town are actually illegal by state standards and federally. So as far as keeping a number and just the regulation that's already in place is very extensive. And I feel like defaulting back to state regulations is a good option for amending the current language. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, council? Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Others?
My name's Kate Polk. I am.
I'm sorry, Kate, can you tell me your last?
Polk, P-O-L-K.
Well, thank you.
I live at 23 West North Street in New Pal. My background, I was a keeper at the Indianapolis Zoo for 7 years, working with the truly dangerous animals, the lions, amongst other things. So a lot of the plains animals were there. And after taking a break for 14 years to raise kids who are also dangerous.
Only once they get over 5 feet.
I survived, well, they are now. I survived that, and I am currently a vet tech in Marion County working with exotic pets. So we see snakes and lizards all the time. Keep in mind that a lot of youngsters maybe are allergic to dogs and cats, and their parents still want them to have some exposure to having pets. In my case, it was more just a choice. My son was obsessed with lizards from about age 5, and we waited until he was 9 before he got his bearded dragon. I broke the law on New Pal because I moved here with a bearded dragon who has since passed, so I no longer have a reptile. But my son did not take it to college, and my daughter did not take her rabbit to college. So Mom got left with the extra. But I really don't agree with considering snakes and spiders to be especially dangerous. I handle them all the time myself. I rarely get bitten. If I do get bitten, working just with exotics, it's usually more like the sugar gliders, which are horribly apt to take hold of you and hang on.
Does that mean like strangle?
No, they have sharp little
Maybe
teeth.
I've watched too many movies.
I mean, they're only this big. It's a little bitty flying squirrel thing from Australia. So yeah, and people don't want to trim their toenails, so they bring them to us and say, "Trim his toenails." It's like, yeah, right. So this thing will sink his tiny little teeth into your thumb at any opportunity. Pardon?
I said, and then you can trim them out.
Yeah, you can try. It usually takes 2 people. The smaller animals are the harder ones to get hold of. So we do it. We get paid to do it, and there's no real problem with it. But I wanted to bring that to your attention that some of these kids like to have a reptile around. So
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
That's your 3 minutes. Any other comments or questions for Kate?
My name is Braxton Walters, and I live on 7109 West Timber Drive. And I have some neighbors, and their name is Marty and Judy. And they have a bunch of turtles. And all the little neighbor, like kids, they just love going over there. And they have a really beautiful backyard. And they have like a koi pond and everything set up. It's really neat. And I see no difference with Jeffrey here. Every time I go over there, I see him treat nothing like the animals with nothing but love. And I mean, we all love it. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thanks, Braxton.
I am Jeffrey Lewis. I am I would say the center of the changes to the ordinances. I'm not trying to be cocky about that. I did make a mistake in my first couple of years of reptile keeping. I did have a young boa escape my custody, and it was found. I was told a month later, but it was brought up to me about 8 months later. I appreciate your comments earlier. I want to put that on the record. I try not to take anything to the heart. It's all part of the business, I guess, the hobby. One of the comments that has just kind of rung with me is I've seen in the paper, in the Daily Reporter twice, that all of my neighbors have a problem with the number of animals and what I'm keeping. I have 6 neighbors on my street alone that have all come in and seen all the reptiles, and they love it. And they encourage me and ask me questions about it all the time. So I want to put that on the record as well. In the DNR thing, I am obviously taking responsibility. I feel like if being punished, I shouldn't be asked to remove my animals. I should be asked to pay my dues to whatever DNR regulates on that matter, as that is Indiana state governing. But outside of that, I do appreciate all the flexibility with you. I never tried to make this a victimizing thing or a pity me party. Obviously, each time it gets shared on Facebook and all that, everything changes. I've always just tried to state my story, keep the facts right, not play the victim, but also not play the hero in that situation. So that's all I have.
Well, before you leave, Jeffrey, I want to comment. You know, we send out a lot of letters notifying town residents that they're violating ordinances. Oftentimes, I would say more frequently than not, those letters are ignored. Repeat letters are sent, they're ignored. Fines are issued, they're ignored, they're not paid, and they end up in lawsuits. Not because that's something that the town wants to do, but when you have no option, that is your only course of action. You received your letter and you immediately contacted the town. You requested to come to a town council meeting to, talk about the issue. I think that we were responsive and we said, your letter, I don't remember the number of days, if it was 10, 15, 30, whatever it was. You received a letter that said you have X number of days, get rid of everything that's in violation of this 80-year-old ordinance. Your response to that was very mature and responsible. You then invited us to come and inspect, and Ethan and I came to your basement and inspected and were able to see firsthand the facilities that you've built. So, you should be congratulated for the way that you responded, because it's because of that response that we're here today. And like I said earlier, whatever we end up with, it's going to be a lot better than what we currently have. So again, I just want to thank you for your response, because we don't pretend to be experts in everything. And we have been receptive to opinions and information. I've been on the council now for 5 years. Who knew a council couldn't regulate falcons? Had no idea. The issue had never come up. So we've learned a lot through this process. But again, I want to thank you for the way you responded. And no matter where we end up, it may be a position that doesn't make everybody happy, but at least it will be better than what we have.
I do want to say, and I don't believe anybody else on town council told the news that your neighbors were upset. So also, the news also said that we were here because an animal got loose, and that's not why. We didn't even know about that when you came to talk to us, right?
That was actually, so the call I received from animal management was you had a snake missing, and then all of my pictures on the screen.
Yeah.
So animal management knew about that. That's kind of what sparked the entire.
Yeah, I learned about it when you guys came in and talked through it, right? So again, just want to make sure you know that. Again, we've learned a ton through this process. Obviously, there's been a lot of people who've reached out and shared information with us, but our intent, and I will say for myself, I can't speak on behalf of everybody else. My intent was to try to make this a better ordinance, right? And to understand that times change, things change. And I think that's my intent is how do we continue to progress this forward in a safe, regulatable manner, right? So I appreciate all the time that you've spent on this as well. And I want to make sure you know that.
Come up. Good to see you all tonight. Everyone, my name is John. I own and operate Silly Story shows with my beautiful fiance Mel there. And Silly Stories is not in your town limits. So forgive me for that. If you guys want to annex us or give us any tax incentives or anything, I'm open to suggestions. But we do come into your town to exhibit, both at the elementary school and the library and you name it, churches. We do live animal performances. And the only advice I have for you, being an outsider, is your current ordinance isn't one that you can enforce. The one that you've written isn't one that you can enforce. A 5-foot-long corn snake is nothing like a 5-foot-long alligator. Just compare apples to oranges and make sure that the language that you pick, exotic to what? Indiana, to the United States, exotic to, New Pal, just use vocabulary that really matters. And if you want help with that, you've got a whole room full of people who care because they're here. And that, to me, is a beautiful thing. It shows that not only do people come to the library or the school to learn about animals and learn about what we do at Silly Safaris, and Barnyard Party Pals is also nearby. So hopefully Luke will come up and add his 2 cents worth. But we live in a world where people want to be closer to animals and want to be closer to nature. Kudos to you guys, because too many elected officials don't have common sense, and you're trying to apply that. So congratulations, and any help we can be, say the word. We're not going anywhere. But if you do want to annex me, seriously, I'm okay.
You're too far south, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I'm Tucson, CUS, as in silly, S as in safari, O-N as in Nancy.
I'm Luke Schoenfeld. I'm the owner and operator of Barnyard Party Pals. We're just here in Fountain Town. We do a lot of mobile events here in New Palestine, a lot of churches. So when you hear the word exotic brought up, it brings a lot of animals that we bring to you. And number one being the camel. The camel comes to New Palestine 3 or 4 times at Christmas time, right down there to the Brookville Road Church. And that's one that would be not allowed. So that's why we were just making sure when it comes to exhibiting, we already have a heavy amount of regulations, whether it's DNR or USDA, that tell us what we can and cannot do. So adding that extra layer or barrier for us to come in, it's like the challenge of having to be able to continue to do business and be able to see the residents of New Palestine, along with going to the schools and libraries like we do. But if you ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out, and we'd be more than happy to help you with the language, because we see the regulations on a daily basis when it comes to USDA, and things are always changing and evolving. So we can help you. Just all you have to do is ask.
Luke, what's the name of your organization?
Barnyard Party Pals.
Thank you.
Luke, I do want to say one of the things that was brought up in one of the first meetings when this was brought up is the fact that we know that there are Silly Safari yourself that come in here, and we wanted to make sure that that could continue.
Absolutely.
So there is written in there. It may not be as clear as we would want it to be, but that was something Ryan brought up, that we know the school has that and other people do. I think the camel can come in town, right? I don't think anybody's upset about that. It's more of, is the camel in your house, right? So I think
absolutely.
this becomes very nuanced as we get down the road of everybody's different
And
animals.
when you read it, it's all in how you interpret it. You know,
100%.
you can read a book 1,000 times and you can read it a different way.
Yep.
So whenever you read a ordinance, it's like, okay, we don't want this. It's like, well, how do you read it? Because I read it as you can't bring them into the town of New Pal. So I just wanted to make sure the clarity was there and everybody was on the same board, because I know, like with the fair board, things change from board to board. Well, they read it this way. Well, we're reading it this way. What's it mean? So we just want that clarity for businesses and individual owners as well, so then that way everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely. Thanks, Luke.
Yeah.
I know that word exotic has just really come
It's
back to
challenging.
haunt us.
It's scary.
Yeah. I know Ethan and I have had conversations,
More definition. Like dangerous.
and that's what we said. Yes, that too.
Hi there, my name's Joanna Roth. I am on the board of OPA, which is the Organization of Professional Aviculturists. I'm also the owner of Bird Fever in Indianapolis, and I used to be a resident right down on Woodbridge a number of years ago, and so I just found out that I was breaking the law because my parents were all there with me. I just wanted to first thank you guys for taking this opportunity to even clarify a bunch of things. The word exotic, like you just said, that's a scary word that you're playing with, and I just wanted to offer my help if needed. If the bird, I only deal with the parrot side of it. I don't deal with falconry or anything like that. I know parrots, so if there's anything I can do to help there, I am available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hi, my name is Melissa Boutour. I am co-owner of Silly Safaris with John that just spoke. I just wanted to kind of add to what John was saying. Thank you, Chad, for bringing up what you said about protecting businesses like Barnyard Party Pals and Silly Safaris. And we are USDA regulated, and we follow all the guidelines and all of the rules and regulations that are required for our companies and businesses. But with what this particular conversation involves, and I think about what everyone else has been kind of saying, and just to reiterate, as a parent too, what you try to teach your kids is words are powerful, and what you say and what you write is meaningful, and this, how you choose to word the language in this, is very important. I love that you want to protect our businesses, but protecting the pet owners in your community are equally as important. And classification is the biggest word that I can think of when it comes to regulating how you're going to go forward. If you want to say, hey, felines, okay, well, felines, that's very vague, right? You can have a kitty cat, but you can't have a tiger. You can't have a lion. Those are very different, you know? So classifications in terms of danger to the area, or parameters when it comes to most of the reptiles, especially the ones that have been discussed, snakes, blue-tongued skinks, all these animals, honestly, from a human standpoint, none of these creatures are remotely dangerous. If anything, I would expect that there would be a line of PETA at the door saying, you shouldn't have them because you're not giving them the environment that they need, because they're not native to that area. And that's not what we're dealing with here. These animals are not dangerous to humans. These pet owners deserve a chance to have pets the same way we want a dog or a cat. If someone lost a snake and they posted it because they're trying to have help to find their snake, why is that any different than someone who posts their puppy dog that was lost? Because we actually know that dogs are the number one in the United States for attacks. So depending on how you want to present your argument, a corn snake, a bearded dragon is going to die in Indiana if it's been left out too long. It can't survive. So there's more of an animal concern than there is of a human concern. You know, if someone has 40 crested geckos in their home, you'll probably never even know about it. But if you got one parrot, everybody knows about it. Most. And I have them, and I love them. We have all of the different species, and they're all wonderful, but they all have their own risk, and they all have their own reward. And it's just really a matter of classification is the biggest word, like I said, I can think of, is if you want to protect your community and you want to respect the boundaries of your neighbors and everyone else, you just need to worry about classification and how you word danger versus just a pet, you know. That's all.
Thank you, Melissa.
Hi, my name is Madison Taylor. I live here in New Pal, and I just wanted to share like my perspective as a child who grew up with a love for reptiles. My dad took me to reptile shows all the time, and growing up with such a love for them, it was so nice to be able to surround myself with them in my house. And like now we have 2 parrots, and every time my friend comes over, they're like, "This is so cool. We've never had issues with them hurting people, biting people, or nothing." Also, I think it's really like many people who have reptiles, especially, they're not easy to care for. They're very expensive. You have to have a lot of knowledge on them, and I know not everyone probably takes care for them, but people who do, you can tell, really love them. And I think people who are really passionate about this should be just more, I don't know, I think it's just like, I think something should be attention is that like people who have reptiles really care for them, and they're not just as simple as like buying like a hamster cage and people putting a hamster in a small hamster cage. Like reptiles need huge enclosures, especially if you have like a tegu or like a monitor, like these huge reptiles. And I just feel like, I don't know, that's just like, I just want to like provide some perspective as someone who grew up living reptiles, and I can imagine like kids not being able to be around them and have them in their houses.
Madison, thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I live in South Florida. South Florida, like 45.
Any other comments? Going once? Going twice? All right.
My comment really has nothing to do with exotic animals. My question is,
You have to give
where
us your
can we?
name. You have to give us your name.
Name and
address.
Oh, Robert Bird.
Thank you.
4568 West Lawrence Way. My question is, where do we find all the ordinances at?
That's a great question. In fact, if you go to our website, right underneath the government tab, there is an excellent website that has all of our ordinances. You can check all the other a lot of other ordinances, to be honest. But you can search through the ordinances. You can check on it. So if you go to the town's website, and I believe we even have little pieces of paper out there that have our website on it, right? Yeah. Yeah. So it's under the government.
So it's.
I think it's under government, isn't it?
It is under government ordinances. You click that, it'll take you there, and it has a search bar, so you
So
can.
now, are all of our ordinances recorded with the county?
Everything's recorded.
I mean, it's
Is
recorded.
that how it goes when the ordinance is passed? It's approved through the county too?
No.
But it's all public information, the ordinance.
Over all the years in that way. And whose responsibility is to enforce the ordinances?
In the town, it depends on the ordinance. It could be our police department. It could be our town manager. It could even be our street manager. Just for the fun of it. It just depends on what
ordinance.
Depends
it
on
is.
what ordinance.
So
it
like
is.
this ordinance in particular, whose responsibility it was to go around and catch all these people that have the thing?
No one went out to catch anybody, but when the town is informed or recognizes that there's an ordinance getting broken, this one fell on Chief's lap.
Yeah, we were contacted by Animal Control, contracting for Animal Control Management, because Mr. Lewis had posted pictures on Facebook, and they caught wind of that he had lost a snake as well. We had included that he had a bunch of snakes, didn't know. So we saw the Facebook post they sent us. We just sent him what the current ordinance is. I said that he was in violation.
Actually, I suggested Mr. Lewis that he show up here, because this is a very old ordinance, and we might want to take a look at it and see if the council wants to make some adjustments. Kudos to him for being here and taking care of this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any others? All right. Council, they've said their thing. So what, this is our opportunity to kind of talk through this, what we've learned, what we have thought through, where our current ordinance is we have passed on first reading the proposals, amendments made to it, and you have copies of that. I know that they've had to make some adjustments even since we passed that. I know that you all have had some conversations with quite a few different people in town, out of town, business owners, and beyond. And so this is our opportunity to talk about where we are on this ordinance, what further adjustments, changes, no changes that you would like to make. So I'll let you all start to see what y'all have learned and gleaned and where we need to be.
Well, I've received an abundance of education over this topic over the last couple weeks, and we did make an amendment and pass on the first reading an ordinance basically to get some things started. We knew that this wasn't going to be an ordinance that most likely passed on a second reading. This was a place to build from. Through all the education I've received, I've kind of went over some facts and handed out to the rest of the council. Some of you don't know that paper came from me because I just laid it down here and you walked in and it was laying there. So it was the one with the paper clip on it.
You have this in digital format for me.
You know what? And yeah.
This is from your typewriter?
It is from my typewriter.
Did you save it?
It's a good inside joke.
I did save it. I'm old school. I did save it. Saved it on my typewriter. It's right there. I haven't closed anything out on my typewriter yet.
It's an open document.
Yeah. But basically, the education that I've gotten over the past couple weeks on reptiles, falconry, exotic animals, it's so broad. And where I've kind of landed is I'm okay with, and I know this is, as a team, we worked together on many things over the past year, and we've all pretty much been on the same page. I think this is going to be one of those occasions where we don't necessarily see eye to eye on this stuff. And that's okay. That's why there's 5 of us, and that's what we're here for. I'm kind of on the opinion of there are lots of regulations and rules already in place, and I'm okay with letting those regulations by the DNR and all the authorities be in place. And I don't know that we need to. I don't like the current ordinance where it's at. I don't like the amended ordinance. I'm okay with not having really a lot of rules and restrictions over the number or the size of these things. There's already rules in place. I do think this comes down to more of a pet ownership issue. People have dogs and dogs get out, right? I see posts on New Pal Parents page and New Pal Community page almost every day about a dog running loose. I have yet to see one about a snake out, or a reptile out, or an exotic animal out. But I see dogs out consistently, and I know it happens. We're human. We make mistakes. But after having all the education I've had over these animals, I think there's enough regulation on them. I just don't think we need additional regulation here in town. That being said, we do have zoning ordinances. So when it comes to selling and breeding for commercial purposes, you can't do that in a residential area. It does go against the zoning ordinance, and the zoning ordinance is there for a reason. So when it comes down to it, in our current zoning ordinance, raising and breeding of non-farm fowl or animals for commercial purpose is supposed to be zoned B4. And if you're not in a B4 designation, breeding and selling for commercial purposes, I don't think that fits.
So Ryan, you're saying that ultimately, when this ordinance was originally adopted 80 years ago, the zoning ordinance, which has come subsequent to that, addresses the same issues.
The breeding issues.
The breeding issues.
At least commercial activity in a residential area.
Mm-hmm.
Breeding and selling. Does it deal with selling? Just breeding?
It said raising and breeding of non-farm fowl, but at some point in time, you're gonna have to sell those, right?
Right. Sometime, hopefully.
But yeah, I also think that I think some definitions need address, which would be dangerous. I do think it needs some work, but I don't think that we need to regulate any more that's already regulated by DNR of the state.
Well, I will jump in and say that looking at the current ordinance, whether you had mentioned the definition of dangerous, or maybe even the lack of a definition, just talking about dangerous, just as elusive as exotic. Because as currently worded, does that mean exotic in my mind? And I've lived a very sheltered life. So, there are certain cats that are way too exotic for me. But so, there's a lot left to interpretation. And whatever we do, I'm sure that we'll address those and get rid of those problems one way or another, because now we're aware of them. I mean, this has been an educational experience for everybody. So,
I just, here's what I appreciate. I appreciate US Arc doing the thing it did, even though I didn't like all parts of it. But that's okay. Because there were a lot of Facebook comments. There were a lot of organizations that reached out to us. There were a lot of conversations that we were able to have that we wouldn't otherwise have. And so that's one of the biggest things I appreciate. I talked to Luke on the phone. I spoke to the CEO of Uncle Bill's Pet Center. I spoke to Jim from the Hoosier or Herba, whatever you guys are. Yeah, Jim. So lots of conversation. Actually, my favorite conversation was from this young man over there, Mr. Barrett, because he's a 7th grader at New Pal Junior High, heard about this issue in our town, and his mom contacted us and said he'd like to sit down and ask some questions. So my favorite part about this is the involvement of our community and wanting to see how do we get this right. I think we should try to ban something every meeting so we get lots of conversations and education when it comes to this. To be honest with you, where I stand, I think our definitions need to be adjusted. I think we have moved in the right direction on definitions related to exotic and dangerous. I think we've moved in the right direction because they're more than 3 words. And they try to give some room for exotic that isn't just about, hey, if it's not born here, then it gives some room based on the fact that people are today more likely to have these animals as pets than they were 80 years ago or even 20 years ago. And so we need to create some space for that. Dangerous is the same way. I think our new language or proposed language moves in the right direction. I do think that DNR has regulations. I happen to believe that we could put a few more restrictions and boundaries in the midst of that. One of the things I heard was when it comes to reticulating pythons and animals, those could be probably a little problematic to have in a residential area. And that's really where my heart is what makes sense in a residential area. And DNR covers lots of area and not just residential areas. And so that's where I'm coming from, is asking what boundaries, guardrails, bumpers make sense for a residential area here in New Pal. To be honest with you, I don't think there needs to be a whole lot of guardrails when it comes to birds. Fish, I don't think they're going to get out and create a problem. So
Nobody's going to take their fish on a walk.
I think we're going to be okay there. I do think there's some reptile guidelines that we can consider, whether it be some conversation around length or quantity when in conjunction with length. And so I have some suggestions. I've handed out to you all some suggestions and language around there. Also happy to consider some conversation around hobbyist permits that allow us to make exceptions for those who are passionate and want to see what it's like to have a few more than maybe it would be of the norm in town limits. So I appreciate that the DNR does have the restrictions that they have, the permitting pieces. I also don't think that I don't want alligators in town. Like, I'm sorry, Jeff, man. I'm not a big alligator fan in town. I know. So if you're farming alligators, but you love your alligator a little too much, I know. Not too much, just too much to farm and eat. I get it. So there's some things that I feel like guardrails may be helpful in our residential area. I don't have any problem with not dealing with it in an apartment or multi-dwelling unit. I think that's a little extra that we don't need to mess with. Landlords can do that. I don't have any problem not doing that. But I would say that having some guardrails would be helpful as we think through this ordinance moving forward.
I just want to say, in our defense, we were elected to, as an advocate and to protect the citizens of the town limits. And that's what we were trying to do. And we quickly found how uneducated we were. So thank you all for bringing us up to speed. I know a lot more about this subject than I've ever wanted to know, but it's been interesting. It's been interesting. So I want to thank you. I do think our amended ordinance needs quite a bit of work. And I am in agreement with a hobbyist permit.
Well, and the thing about a hobbyist permit, it's probably no different than the kennel permit. Just because somebody applies doesn't mean it's going to be issued. You know, there are parameters, there's discretion. You know, for example, if somebody was cited because they have dogs who just have a propensity to chase school kids down Depot Street or Bittner or wherever else dogs chase kids waiting for a bus, because that has happened. If that person applied for a kennel permit, they're probably not going to get a kennel permit, which is authorization to have more than four dogs. So, you know, the idea of a hobbyist permit, I think, is a good one. Again, we're learning a lot, making what we have currently a whole lot better than what it is. But, you know, again, just because you want to have more than whatever a certain number is doesn't mean it's going to be granted. But if you're a responsible owner, you know, maybe you should have that opportunity. And, you know, a lot of permits are made probationary for, say, a year, and they become permanent if there were no problems. So if the concern is you are a bad snake owner, well, we don't know that. You don't know that. We give you a permit. It's probationary. And then a year later, there haven't been any problems. Well, you've shown you're a responsible snake owner. And so that permit could then become permanent. So that's something else just to consider. And if you have one of those temporary permits and there's a million problems and complaints and police runs, then it's probably not going to, or it could even be revoked. So that's something to consider with respect to a hobbyist permit.
I'd also like to point out the hobby, any permit that we've had any conversation or dialogue or dreamed up, it's also, because I saw this comment as well, not a money drag or pull, right? My intent would be if we were to create some type of hobbyist permit, that it would just be a $5 permit, that it's not $20 per animal. It's, you know, it helps us understand what's going on in our town when it gets to a certain level. That's what my intent would be on that.
Yeah, it's not a revenue stream.
No, it's not going to. There's not that many reptiles in New Powell.
We don't make money on golf. That's not the thing that's paying for it. Okay. Never mind. Never mind. Yeah, I think the $5 will pay for us
To make the copy.
To print. the one. The one thing I would say about the hobbyist permit is, should there be something in there where they list those animals, and if there is a deviation of X, then you need to come back in. The reason I bring that up is I think part of this also is just knowing what's out there, right? I think that's probably brought up. I mean, I did not know there were as many passionate people about this in the town as we have, which is good. But I think also knowing, if I want to have, I get my permit, I have one, whatever animal, I'm not going to say it because I'll offend somebody, and then all of a sudden it ends up being 20, like that's probably a different process, right?
I agree.
So in my mind, it would be something that we can not track and regulate. And again, this is not for us to try to say you can't have things that you enjoy. That is not what we're trying to do at all, but making sure it's done in a reasonable fashion, I think it is important. And also to be able to track, right? I don't think Chief wants to send any of our deputies in a house where they think, hey, there's one snake there, and then all of a sudden you get in there and there's 18 alligators that are having a fight in the basement. You know what I mean? So again, that's an extreme pass, and they'd be violating other laws too. But the intent in what I'm saying is understanding what's out there, right? And understanding who's close to a line and who's not would be something that I would want us to make sure that we're putting into a hobbyist permit.
I think there's a difference between someone who has just wants to own some of these types of animals as pets, and someone who has this next level passion or desire, whether it's an element of breeding or it gets to a certain level in a residential area. I think that's the line that I'm interested in understanding more.
Yeah, and I mean,
what do you got?
If you're back and forth right now, there's so many organizations. If you look at even with dogs, there's registered dog breeders. There's different organizations that follow a code of conduct within their own species. If you now, because USDA currently doesn't monitor reptiles, so that creates a bit of an issue when you're talking about reptiles. But if you had something within your guidelines that said if you are part of a registered organized breeding unit, that automatically lets you know that that breeder is following a different guideline that is mandatory by their breeding organization. For example, we breed reindeer. It's one of the things that we breed is reindeer. We are part of 2 different reindeer breeding organizations. We will not sell or buy from anyone who is not part of either of those, because it creates a guideline. We know that they're kept a certain way, that they follow certain guidelines. So if you created it where it was, hey, if you're going to own gators, for example, you have to be part of this registered organization, because that would actually eliminate you guys trying to figure out, well, what's allowed, what's not allowed. You don't have to make that decision. There's a greater organization that's already done all of that work for you, and it would tell you you can't have 16 alligators in a 1 acre lot. You can't. Like, if we never allow that to happen.
Well, Mel, I have a question for you about that. So when it comes to breeding snakes, who checks on that?
So there are registered breeding organizations when it comes to reptiles and different classifications. And the classifications, and honestly, if we've never bred reptiles, we don't really, I can't even tell you the exact names of them. We could find out for you.
But does somebody come to your house and you said there have to be...
You can be subject to, kind of like with USDA, we are USDA regulated for the species that fall under that classification. We are subject to an examination at any point, and we have a mandatory check every 3 years. But they could show up at any time.
So
for example, if there's a Facebook post that, hey, someone's snake got out, they could show up at our door at any point. Or if a reindeer got loose,
So it's not something we're going to have to educate Chief on to go do these inspections.
Your life a
Okay.
lot simpler than if you had it classified that if you're going to own these exotic species, owning, like you said, if you're going to have a blue-tongued skink or a bearded dragon, I'm sorry, you're never going to be able to regulate that because there's no reason to, and no one's going to do that. But if you're going to breed them and you're going to have 100 bearded dragons, or really even that wouldn't matter. But if you're gonna have 100 alligators and you live in a residential area, that's absurd. Any reasonable organization would tell you that that's not going to work because of the grounds that we're required to do so.
Okay.
So if you had it in your guidelines that you have to be registered under one of these breeding organizations, they would take care of monitoring, make sure you're following your checklist of things. Because they're not going to approve it, and they're going
To use the metaphor, yeah, it'd be like the American Kennel Club or the
Yeah.
North American Falconry Association or some of the other.
AKC registered or all that stuff.
And you guys
And
have looked at other
and
American
from your perspective and experience, about anything that we're talking about, there's some organization out there that offers some type of regulation or organization that can speak into the breeding elements
If it
piece.
comes to breeding, absolutely, or if it
Okay.
comes to displaying of animals, that would fall on, like, if you're doing some sort of private zoo collection, if you're doing anything like that where you're
Right.
making money or doing it, yes, those are always regulated by a higher.
Okay. I know one thing I do know in the midst of the conversations that we have, if you have a comment that you would want to make in the midst of our conversation, feel free to raise your hand. When we feel like, if we feel like, or when we feel like it would be appropriate, we'll invite you to step for a couple of reasons. Step to the podium so that it can be recorded, because all of our meetings are recorded, and there's, thousands of people right now watching on YouTube. Probably not, but nonetheless, that's what we'd ask you to do is, and then we can address whatever issues or questions that we may have for that. One moment. Any other thoughts from council as we're walking through this?
There are some limitations, and I'm not going to say the organization because I don't like to get them blown up, but there are some limitations based on wild, dangerous, whatever. But they're saying, okay, if it falls into this class, you can only have so many of those, which may be something, again, that we look at. There's tons of classifications out here, and again, the intent is not to regulate everything. That I don't have time for that, neither does Chief or anybody else up here, but I think it's hinting towards a classification probably similar to the classification in DNR, around the class 1, 2, 3, but also limit, like if you have a dangerous or wild animal, you can only have so many, right?
Right.
If it falls into that. I don't know if we have anybody in the town. I would not be surprised at this point if we have anybody that has, muskrats or squirrels. Like they're in
Anybody?
here as regulated. Any?
No? Okay.
I saw leopard in here too. I don't know. Do we have any leopards?
The
in town?
class 3 is the only one I would really be concerned with. Bears,
No bears.
full-bred wolves, or
Probably a bad idea.
full-blooded wolves, things like that. Class 3 would be the only thing that would really raise a red flag for me. But these are things that we can work on. This is going to be, I think, as far as the council's concerned and the town's concerned, kind of like a marriage. It's going to be a compromise, right? Like, we'll come to a mutual understanding, and like Bill said, this is going to be better than anything that we had in the books before. Something we'll have to continue to work on.
Yeah, my last comment is we talked about food trucks for 8 months. So if you think we're going to solve this in any
It won't be
quick time
solved
frame,
tonight.
it's not going to happen. I hope we don't go down that road because I don't see 8 months of this discussion. But we are going to have to go back and do some additional research.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we are going to find ourselves not coming to a particular conclusion. I would offer that I don't even know, Ted, what the regulation is to walk back first readings. Can we vote on it and then say no, and that's just off the table then?
You can just table it. Just voting on it in first reading doesn't mean anything.
So my thing is, I think what we've realized is that it's not something that, like, the language that we approved is not something we would approve in a second reading. Is that an agreement with the council?
Yeah, but I think
We just amend it.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
just make amendments.
Okay.
But the question that I have right now is we still have an ordinance out there.
Right. So
that is very restrictive, and as everybody who came up here said, they're all in violation.
I don't want you all to be breaking the law.
I wrote down if you, no, I'm kidding.
Chief, will you start writing letters?
You write down, sit down, came up, and voluntarily told us they violated this ordinance.
So is it possible? Can we pause? I mean, I know that we're not going to be writing letters. We're not writing letters.
Stand by on these, right?
We're not writing letters.
We don't have to do.
All right. So I know that there are comments that want to be made. However, my question is, do we want to continue conversations around this tonight? Are we going to get anywhere, or should we table where we are and then move forward, or take it up? What is the will of the council?
I would be interested in tabling this, and then I'm personally willing to stay. I know there's a lot of people who probably want to talk to us or give their opinion on these things. I'm more than happy to listen to those, but I think for everybody, tabling this, doing more research, and coming into a better alignment. In the last 2 weeks, we've all become much more educated on this topic. So I think that would be the continued process.
Because I'm also interested in hearing what I don't want for everybody that's here to have to monitor our agenda and to think, oh, whatever they said, it's because at the next meeting they're just going to pass whatever they want. That is absolutely not the case. But, as you saw things that, the Main Street and the owner's representative contract, some meetings are much more exciting than others. And, you're welcome to come to every meeting, but I also don't want to require that. So like Chad said, whether we're during the meeting or after the meeting, I'm here as long as anybody wants to discuss it, share anything, because we're still learning. So
It may be unnecessary, Ted and council, and I recognize that. But I also realize, and maybe to your point, I don't want anybody to think that, we're going to sneak a meeting in and pass ordinances that have been read on the first reading. So is it possible to call for the second vote, and then if it doesn't pass, then we have to start the process all over again, correct?
You would have to start the process all over.
All right. Well, then I would like to make a motion that I think I have to put it this way. I have to make a motion that we approve on second reading, and if I get a second, then we vote?
Well, actually, that's not.
How do we do it?
So,
how do we take this off the table? Because I think that's one of the concerns that I want to make sure people leave here knowing, that the current language that we're looking at isn't going to be snuck in another meeting.
Well, you could do it a couple ways. You could postpone it to a time certain, say we won't bring this up for 2-3 more months, right? And that keeps it going.
Yeah.
If you want to do that to yourself.
No.
No.
I'm on vacation on the 18th, so I think
that's a good one.
That's a good meeting to have it.
For 3 months.
June 18th.
Well, I like the idea of make your motion, or did you just?
Well, I was curious about procedure.
I think procedurally, if you make the motion, if it's seconded for discussion purposes, and then it's voted, if it's not approved, it does. And I know Ted will say you don't have to do that, but the reason that I like doing it is because to pass an ordinance, it takes 2 readings.
Right.
So if you miss one meeting, okay.
U.S. ARC will let you know.
But at least
Right?
there's
You got
2 opportunities, not just one. So that's not a bad idea.
Make a motion.
Make your
All right,
motion.
I would like to make a motion that we, I'm going to be the one who makes the motion. I'm on record.
It's going to be, you're on Fox 59. You're against everything.
Appreciate it. I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with the approval on second reading of amendment to ordinance, point, all the things.
I second that motion for purposes of discussion.
Any further conversation?
It's a terrible motion. Let's deny it.
All right, any other conversation?
Well played.
All right. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
No. All right, that motion
So you
fails.
voted against your own motion?
You know what? Sometimes you just learn a few things here and there.
So do we post the agenda on the website? Okay. So the other thing I'll tell everybody is
It's on Facebook and the website.
yes, Facebook, great, because I'm not on that, so please do that.
So you,
What I will say though is if you go to newpalestine.in.gov, it will take you to our website. It will tell you when our meetings are, and before meetings, the agenda will be on there. Now, agendas could change if something comes up out of nowhere, so please understand that we're doing our best here, but that could also be an avenue in which you could take a look at and make sure that you're engaged in here if you would like to be.
So there will be changes, I believe, to this ordinance, but the ordinance that you all have read as proposed language is dead, and we will continue to revisit this ordinance so that we can get language that is more apt to our community and the animals it represents. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Barrett. Barrett, if you have a comment to make, I'll invite you to come to the podium. Garrett, sorry. For some reason I kept thinking Barrett. Garrett, I apologize, sir.
I live at 600 West Palestine, and I live actually outside the town limits, right outside. But I have a question to ask. So let's say the ordinance does come into effect, and Jeffrey can't have his alligators anymore. So would he be able to grandfather in the alligators to where he can't get any more, but he can still keep them until they pass or he owns them?
I think that.
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of speculation in that, right? So that's a if. So I would say we'd have to get to a ordinance we feel comfortable with first, and then talk through that. Grandfathering a ordinance, in my opinion, does not make sense because we're saying, hey, this is what we're doing to try to make everybody safe. A reasonable time frame definitely makes sense, right? I wouldn't want to go to somebody and say, hey, you have to get rid of your dog tomorrow or else, right? That doesn't make sense. But working with that, I think that's our intent. I think we tried to do that the first time this got brought up in February, right? We tried to say, hey, let's not do anything. The last thing we want is to say you have to go disrupt the lives of these animals and yourself, right? We're trying to work with people to work on that. At no point do I see us doing anything that says, hey, they got to go by tomorrow, right?
And let me specifically, I'm sorry, Chad.
Go ahead. No, I was done.
Your question about grandfathering, so that you know that would have no application here whatsoever. Grandfathering is when you have done something that is allowed and somebody passes a rule that says now it's not allowed. Well, when you started doing it, it was allowed. That's grandfathering. So it doesn't even apply to this situation.
What does apply to this situation, Garrett, is that since you don't live in town limits, Jeff's alligator can come to your house. So you work that out with Mom and Jeffrey, and then we'll revisit. Fair enough. I appreciate you.
I'm
I
jealous,
appreciate you.
jealous of your hair too. By the way.
I also really appreciate the conversation that you had with Ethan and I. It's an enjoyable part of this job. Not all of it is enjoyable, but thank you very much for taking your time to do that and your time as well.
Way to go, Garrett.
Yes, ma'am.
Very quick question, hopefully it's easy. Where can we go to find like rough draft proposed language changes? Because I didn't know about this until it was already in motion. I don't know, was the informal meeting with Tia, but I wasn't the Richard Fed. Like, how do we keep up on it?
So, great question.
Our minutes are posted.
Our agenda has our agendas are posted on the website, and everything that would be on the agenda has an attachment. So you can look at the agenda and see the attachments to it. So it would have the proposed.
Do you send out, and I'm just asking because I don't know the answer to this, when you go to our website right now, you can sign up for notifications.
I do not send out notifications unless it's like a road closure or something like that.
Okay, so agendas aren't part of that
No,
process. So we
no.
can't set that up so people who are part of that could automatically get
No,
that.
they're consistently posted.
Right.
Yes.
So you can log in and
That
get that.
5 days before the meeting.
So
It gives you time to
go like our town Facebook page. The council chats are great ways to ask questions and see what we're working on and thinking through. So if you can ever make one of our council chats, which is typically the first Friday morning of every month, it's a great way to kind of get an idea of what we got going on in an informal conversation way. And then, as Chad mentioned, the previous minutes. So if you see something that was previously on an agenda that we haven't finished talking about. We very rarely, as you can tell, we very rarely make definitive decisions in one meeting and one meeting only.
And Yvonne said that the agenda goes out. Jenny posts the agenda about
Usually
5 days.
Friday.
The Friday
afternoon.
before our meeting, and we meet the first and third Wednesday of every month.
So any draft language changes will be attached.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just so that you know, the council president, who is now also known as the mayor, has the authority to make any adjustments to the agenda that he deems appropriate. Making a change to bring this up would not fall into that category. I can't speak for the mayor, but this isn't something that anybody's going to try to sneak in. You know, we appreciate the feedback that we've got. We all know a lot more than we did. So this is something we want the input. So it will be out there advertised so that if people want to show up, you're welcome to do so.
So, yes,
Real quick.
there's a lot of real quicks tonight.
Does Hancock County have any rules regulating this?
It's separate.
It's a little separate. So
I mean, do they have?
they have animal rules. County does
That's
those.
what I mean. The county already has a set of rules about.
The county has ordinances, however, they don't apply within town.
Right. So does Greenfield and
But what I'm saying,
McCordsville
though, is
and Cumberland.
You could adopt the county's standard.
You could. But we also recognize that the close proximity in New Pal is one of those things, like residential areas is one of those things worth considering. All right. I know there's lots of conversations, as Chad mentioned, and I'm happy to stick around, listen to whatever thoughts you have. We have a few real quick things. I don't even know where my agenda is. I got it. I would, Terry, I don't want to skip over your dumpster per town cleanup day. Do you want to address that? Or do you want to?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's do, because
Okay.
it is spring cleaning and I don't want it to be summer cleaning because that gets hot if we postpone this.
Yeah.
So I did talk to people, several different communities, and this is what I came up with. They basically, it's a very organized thing, and I can do that. But
You're the one organizing it?
Well, well.
All those in favor?
All right. So what you do is you get several dumpsters.
Okay.
And I have called to get quotes on that. And then basically they take almost anything. The only things.
Which company are you?
Well, there's one, the most affordable is from Greenfield, and it's called Indie Dumpsters.
Okay.
I don't know why it's not called Greenfield Dumpsters, but anyway. But their price includes drop-off, pickup, and disposal. And they'll take almost anything except tires, liquid paint. Even the liquid paint, if you put kitty litter in there, they'll take that if it's dried up. Propane tanks, they will not take. Oil. If you drop off refrigerators, you can't have the Freon in there. And any other hazardous materials. But that leaves it open to a lot of things like electronics and that kind of thing. And this is would be free to the public. This is our way of, the taxpayers. We're trying to find ways to give back. We need a lot of volunteers, and I was told that the community, as far as volunteers go, people from the community, local organizations, honor society needing to earn credits, youth groups from local churches, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts needing to earn badges, street department needs to be there to operate equipment to lift heavy items. And also, we need volunteers available to do any heavy trash pickup for those that couldn't make it to the dumpster. And so we would go to their home and pick stuff up for them.
Do you have a proposed date and budget for this?
I do not.
Okay.
I just got that. I don't know the date. We need to figure out a location. But I will say it's a limited time. It would be like on a Saturday from 9 to 2 or something like that.
I like using the North Plant property.
That was discussed, but we were talking about how to get in and out of there. Isn't that what we said, Jim?
The north plant wouldn't be bad because you can make that circle. It does have a long drive, but we'll never make it into the south plant now with
Oh,
this construction.
yeah.
There's not too much going on back there.
$425 per dumpster,
And what's the size?
20 yards.
Ooh, that's gonna be too small.
We could go to see waste management, but they were for a 30-yard dumpster was $1,100. That's just one. Yeah.
All right.
The nice thing about the 20 yards is if somebody does bring something back, it's easy to throw into. The 30 yards,
Right.
it's just so hard to get it up.
Well, there's a 40-yard that's 8 foot tall, and that would really be hard.
Yeah.
Well, this indie dumpster, they said that they would, all you have to do is call them, say, hey, we need you to switch out. Even if we had like 3 of them.
But it costs every time they switch it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What we can do is if we did a 30 or a 40, there's another company called Smash Your Trash that you can call and they'll come and they'll smash it down. We can work on this
Okay.
because I think what we need to do is propose a budget and
Mhm.
say, here's the cost,
Mhm.
here's the logistics of it. I'm pretty decent at logistics, so I could probably help with this.
Mhm.
And then say, hey, here's the total cost, run that by everybody here, and then work through how we would manage it. I think one of the things that we have to be careful of is if you put a dumpster out, like, people will come out of the woodwork, right? So, like, how do we maintain that?
Oh,
to say-
well,
It's
that's,
a one-day thing.
it's one day. It's only so many hours.
Correct.
And then you
but
would have to
once
have
you
your,
call to pick it up, you get on their schedule, right? So it may be out there for another 2 days. So we'll have to think about that too.
well, this guy, yes, you'd have to bring your sewer stub or whatever. Yeah, but he sounded like he would be very available to work with us.
Did he
and
sound like he was very interested in giving us a discount?
didn't go that far.
I like everything about that. The only thing I would caution is like if we go to people's houses to pick stuff up, that we don't enter the house. The whatever items need to be outside already.
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't
Yeah.
want anybody going in somebody's house.
There could be alligators in it.
And that would
Too
need
soon?
to be,
Too soon.
Too soon?
Too soon.
that, notice would have to be posted ahead of time so that those people that need the heavy pickups and to go to their house, they'd make an appointment and then we could tell them at that time to make sure everything's outside.
I think it's a great idea, Terry.
I like it.
really do.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of traffic going through the core of town. I call it the old part of town, especially since the bridge is out. And I've gotten a lot of calls that were looking a little shabby.
Yeah.
And according to the comprehensive plan, the people that participated in the survey, they love our quaint little town. And I think when I think of quaint and charming, I
Quaint.
don't think of trash. So
Okay.
Awesome.
just trying to follow everybody's lead. Okay.
I think everybody's in favor. Just we got to figure out
Okay.
logistics and date, and we can move forward. And I think it'll be good for the town.
Date, location, and cost.
Can we table architectural committee conversations?
Absolutely.
All right. Anything from legal?
No, sir.
All right, Jim. Do you have anything to add at this point?
No, I'm gonna skip over that and I'll bring this up next.
Okay.
But I will say there will be a rabbit in town if that's allowed this Saturday at the park. So
It's outside of town limits. You're good.
okay, fair enough.
Is it a 6 foot tall rabbit?
Could be.
No.
Is it an Eastern cottontail rabbit?
Not if Jim's in the costume.
That's Mr. Niemeyer.
There you go.
No, thank
It
you.
will not be 6 foot.
So Easter egg hunt at Sugar Creek. Look at all those eggs we're going to be getting out to the kids in the community. So
It's also on our Facebook.
Will food trucks be there?
Ask. I think there was a
There
snow
were
cone.
2 last
Yeah.
year.
That might be.
There were.
Yep.
Selling omelets.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Cooperation
Too
with
late
the
for you.
township.
After bedtime.
All right.
anything else, Jim?
No, we're good. Thank you.
Steve?
No, nothing.
All right. Chief? Yvonne?
Today, we got acceptance of our position for where Shuji retired, and a young lady named Ryan Ferris will be accepting that position starting in May.
Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent. Thank
Great
you.
news.
All right.
Oh, one more thing, like, if you were here for extra credit for government
Class. I think they left.
You? Yeah. Okay. Make sure you take selfies.
Mrs. Jacobucci. Did right. But she
Or
left
we'll
for-
write you a note if you weren't, if you already left. This was not the meeting to show up for the government class.
Actually, it was. Maybe it was.
All right, fair. I like it. So we do have place on our agenda for public comments about anything that you would like to discuss. If there's anybody who would like to bring up a comment to the council, this is your time. Please step to the podium, name, address, all the things. Nope, great. Oh, so close.
Bill Goss, President of the United States Association of Reptile Keepers. I'm actually here for a compliment. Actually, people were asking about the agenda and how it was posted on there. New Pals does a better job than most way bigger cities and definitely better than state legislatures. So I wanted to. In case you don't know where it is, it's super easy to find. And again, it's way better than I've been over 300 places doing it. So.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank
Phil.
you.
Appreciate it.
Safe travels home.
Any others? Moving on to, okay. No one's going to boo you. No one's going to boo you. We love it.
Thank you for the way you handled having the first reading done, and you came in. Nancy Vesely out of Westfield, but because I was exactly worried about that same thing. You read it once, next time you never know.
Yeah.
But
You
thank
weren't
you for
here.
going through and canceling it out and starting all over.
You're
Promise, we're not trying to do anything nefarious. As much as everybody may think we are definitely not. So we'll put that on the record too.
Chad made. I'm not even going to ask the question anymore. Terry, council comments.
I just want to thank you, Ethan, and Ryan, and everybody involved in all the reptile research, RR. I also want to thank all of you for educating us. I'm a dog person, but hey, who knows? Once the dog goes, I might join you.
No, you won't.
There might be certain things.
Yeah, it's on record, Terry.
I won't. Yeah. Oh, no. So anyway.
You had your chance to comment.
That's all.
All right, Ryan?
I want to thank everybody that took their time to come to the meeting. Everybody I've had conversations with over this animal-related topic over the past 2 weeks. It's like I think I mentioned at the last meeting. My oldest daughter actually worked for John and Mel for a while, and I know still goes there. And that place is near and dear to my heart, and I know my family's heart. And I still get educated on this stuff. I mean, just when you think you know a lot, you learn more stuff, and I absolutely love that. So thank everybody who took the time to help us through this, and we're going to continue to reach out to help us massage this to be in the right place. Side note on the bridge, it is closed and there's work being done. We did put a 45-day timeline out there for that work to be done. I anticipate it getting done quicker, but we did put a 45-day time limit out there. So if it does get done in 30 days, we look really, really good. So we do that, partly for a reason with weather and everything else. But I just encourage the public to stay away from the project. CSX takes that work seriously. I've instructed Chief to, let us know if they see anybody up there. Don't try to sneak through. Don't try to cut through if you're walking, jogging, exercising, all the things I should be doing. Don't just stay away from the project. It'll get done a lot quicker, and we won't have the headaches to deal with there. So I look forward to that project getting done and wrapped up, though. So that's all I have.
I want to say something again. I didn't want to exclude Ted and his office for all the work they've done on the ordinance. Okay, proceed.
My turn. All right. So,
Chad, you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, Ryan's on record said it's going to be quicker than 45 days. So be very excited about that, everybody. The bridge will be open early, is what I heard him say.
Yep.
Some housekeeping right after we adjourn. They're going to bring up some stuff for us to sign. So I know we're really important people right now, but if you guys could just give us a couple minutes, don't trample Yvonne and Jenny. Let us sign this stuff so they can get going there, and then I'll hang out until we get kicked out. That's all I got.
Thanks. Bill?
Not only the bridge on Bittner, but also the county is currently working on the roundabout on Mount Comfort Road. I know that that's a terrible inconvenience. It's currently one way. There might be times that it's shut down, but it's a temporary inconvenience. We appreciate the county's efforts to make that intersection safer. But again, it's a temporary inconvenience. So bear with us and everybody else, and we'll get through that project. And exactly what everybody else has said. The animal ordinance is a learning experience. Nobody here had any ill intent. We didn't know what we didn't know until it was brought to our attention that we didn't know it. So, whatever we end up with will be 1,000% better. If we end up with anything, it'll be better than what we have. So again, appreciate all of the information and the feedback that we've and information that we've gained. So thank you.
Thank you. Only a couple things from me. Warmer weather just means more kids are going to be walking to school. Please just be aware of kiddos as you're heading to work in the morning, especially across 52 for the high schoolers. Just be very aware of pedestrians and students walking. Golf carts are going to start showing up a lot more often. Please just patience. There's a lot of things we love about our town, and one of the things I love about it is my kids can walk to school, and I want to keep them safe as well as all the other kids.
But because they can't cross the bridge, hi, it's me again. They're going to have to go around north to Depot.
There is no respect for the mayor of this town.
I will attest to the fact that there have been policemen parked at the end of my driveway monitoring, because nobody stops at that four-way stop, or very few. And like you said, kids are walking to school, so slow down.
Thank you for that commercial break. Terry, back to my comments. The next council chat is Friday, May 2nd. 8 a.m. at Tia's. It's an informal time for anybody to show up, have conversation with a couple of the council members to just, hey, this is what's going on. We'd love to hear from you. Going from there. So May 2nd, that's the first Friday of every month, 8 a.m. at Tia's. And I'll be there, and one of my council friends will be joining me, I have no doubt. That's all I have. So I will welcome a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Chad gets it because you've talked an awful lot. No. Terry seconds it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Meeting adjourned.